All right, everybody. We're going to get this show on the road so we can hear our great speaker. I think you're in for a treat today, as we have, and I didn't realize our speaker had a nickname until today. And I'm excited. Coach, you'll be glad to know. You always love to hear. One of our board members said, I was listening to Coach Orgeron on the buzz today, and he really sounded refined. Like you don't sound refined at other times, so I'm not sure what the deal is there, but we're excited to hear what you've got to say. And Gary Underwood, if you'll come lead us in a word of prayer and get us started, that'd be great.
Thank you, David. I'm sorry I was unable to be with you guys last week. Understand they had to call in a sub to do the prayer, and understand that he called for a W, or asked for a W in the middle of the prayer. Now, I've only ever asked for a W one time, and that was for George W. when he was president, because you should pray for the president. So, I'm not going to go there. But I tell you one thing about Saturday. I know we're all a little bummed, but I believe the Hogs are back. What do you think? Don't you? I think they're back, and they're going to be in these games, and it's going to be exciting to watch. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the beautiful day you've given us, the opportunity to gather together and enjoy each other's fellowship and company, and just gather together and have a great time. We ask you to use us today as we try to serve you and serve others. We ask for this in your Son's name. Amen.
Thanks, Gary. Well, I didn't even realize God wasn't happy with that prayer last week. I'd have cut Kenny off right at the spot if I'd have known that. Good grief. How many enjoyed Charlotte Jones Anderson last week if you were here? Was that not great? Wow. And those darn Cowboys are 3-1 last night. They actually showed Charlotte. Yeah, if you're a Cowboy fan, you got to be excited. They even showed Charlotte on TV right before the half and said she doesn't get enough credit for all she does for the Cowboys. So I thought that was great. Speaking of Cowboys, do we have a treat for you next week? The great Leroy Jordan will be here. One of the greatest linebackers. Bear Bryant said he was one of the greatest players he ever coached. Then he obviously plays under Tom Landry. Also, Cliff Harris will be here. So they will be here together talking about the Cliff Harris Award and other things. So excited about that. Make sure now, if you RSVP, that you show up. If you're not, I know some of you who couldn't make it today did RSVP. Some of you didn't. Just keep doing that. We'll certainly appreciate it. Want to encourage you to continue to join up. If you hadn't joined already, bring some friends. Move up the National Football Foundation membership or the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame membership, if you will. Let's thank our sponsors real quick. Twin City Limos, thank you, Popeye, for picking up Coach O today. Cranford Johnson Robertson Woods for their help on the Cliff Harris Award. Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau, we're proud to be the Little Rock Touchdown Club. Thank you, David Russell, for your support. 103.7 The Buzz. Justin and Pat did a great job with Coach O a minute ago, as they do every week prior to a meeting. Always glad to have Tommy and Roger in here supporting us as well. Thank you, 103.7 The Buzz. Epic Health and Arkansas Urology had a big turnout last month, guys, for guys getting checked. National Men's Health Month. Thank you for doing that. If you were one of the ones, we thank Mike Whitfield and Dr. Tim Langford, Scott Davis for their support over at Epic Health. Also want to thank Wendy's and Nan Trammell for her support. The Dan Hampton and Willie Rofe Award. Be interesting. Speaking of great linemen, boy, our guest speaker has coached some great ones. Wait till you hear some of the names that they're thrown out today that he's coached. So thank you to Wendy's and Nan Trammell. Thanks to Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings Law Firm, an outstanding law firm. If you need any legal help, please go to them. Judy Henry and her amazing staff are outstanding attorneys, and we're glad to have him there every week. Thank you, gang, over at Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. Also, Crane Automotive. Thank you, Larry Crane. And Drew, thank you so much. One of the top automotive dealerships in the country. We're glad to have them here in Arkansas supporting us. Go by and tell them that you're members of the Touchdown Club, and hopefully they'll take real good care of you. The Arkansas Democrat Gazette, Tabitha Cunningham, Wally Hall, they sponsor our High School Player of the Week, who we'll introduce here in just a minute. Thank you. They've been a supporter of ours for every year we've been in existence. Last but not least, Simmons Bank. We have David Bartlett, who is the president and chief banking officer, who is in for Adam Mitchell today. David, glad to have you here. And the top leader, the number one man, George Macris at Simmons. George, thank you so much for your support of the Touchdown Club. We've had a banner year thanks to your belief in this Touchdown Club. And I encourage you to go by and give Simmons your business. They're great to work with, and they're doing exciting things. Been doing it for over 100 years, so they know how to do it right. Let's give all of our sponsors a round of applause. It's a great group. Do want to thank Matt Johnson. Y'all don't realize how much work Matt does back there in setting up. Matt Johnson Productions. Thank you, Matt. Dwayne Duncan, who does all of our photos. And I think, Dwayne, are those photos still out there, the hard copies, or did you pick them up? They're still out there, so maybe after the meeting, if you hadn't picked up your photos, if you've taken with our guest speakers, go by and look at those. Dwayne, thank you for your help. R.J. Hulk, who does our social media, is actually doing social media through our live stream right now. So he's actually typing when Coach O starts typing. He's going to do social media through Twitter, which is at Little LR Touchdown Club or hashtag LRTDC. The website is lrtouchdown.com. If you've got any friends or younger folks that do that social media stuff, just tell them to follow the Touchdown Club. Do thank RJ for doing a good job with our social media. Do want to thank our wonderful check-in ladies. They are amazing. They do a great job every week. We're so lucky to have them out there working. And Debbie Wyman continues to do a great job as our executive director. And do want to thank the Embassy Suites for their work with us. Let's give all of them a round of applause, if you will. This time I want to bring up our Arkansas Democrat-Gazette High School Player of the Week, Kason Mertens. He is a junior quarterback from Benton High School. 2 weeks ago, 33 of 42 for 413 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also rushed for 29 yards on 3 carries and rushed for a touchdown in Benton's 52-32 win over Greenbrier. This past Friday, he goes 23 of 41, 233 yards passing. In a 28-19 win over Parkview. He ran for a touchdown, and he caught a touchdown. Now, he's the quarterback. I saw Sully's highlights, and I said, didn't you catch a pass for a touchdown? It was a trick play. And he's only a junior. Benton is 3-0-1. And so, without further ado, a very deserving young man, our Arkansas Democrat-Gazette High School Player of the Week, Kason Mertens, everybody. We want to thank his parents, Tammy and Brian, for being here with us today, and Coach Scott Netherly, who is the head coach at Benton. The good things are happening at Benton. That darn tie rule. Does anybody like the tie rule in high school football, non-conference games? Benton and Bryant played to a tie that first game, and they're 3-0-1, and hopefully, maybe somehow we can get that changed, Rex. I don't know. Real quick, I want to acknowledge some folks that are here. First of all, I know one of the great Razorback quarterbacks in recent memory. Clint Sterner is here. Let's give it up for Clint. Where you at, Clint? Wave your arm. Where you at? Stand up. Where you at? There he is right there. Clint Sterner. And then 2 guys that I have not seen very much, but 2 of the great linemen and one of the great legacies at the University of Arkansas, the Beckett family, who I consider, if you think about it, I don't know if they've had more people play than the Becketts, but we have Jay and Chris Beckett. Where are they at? Please stand. Where are you guys at? And Chris's youngest just got a scholarship. He's a senior at Catholic, going to California, right? Playing for Cal. Well, you talk about a wide-bodied. That man's got some legs on him. I really do. But anyway, 2 great linemen. Coach, I'll never forget Jay Beckett one time. Remember Tim Carter, right? Is it Tim Carter? Michael Carter. Threw the shot put about 80 feet in high school, and Jay Beckett whipped the stew out of him in that SMU. If we hadn't got that cheap call by the referee in that game down in Dallas, we'd have won that game. Also, is George here? Are you here yet? Schroeder? Is he here? He's going to be walking in. I just want to acknowledge him real quick. George Schroeder, Rex, I know who knows who he is. He's a national college football writer for USA Today. He's also written for Sports Illustrated. 8 years with the Oklahoman. 8 years with the Democrat Gazette from 1991 to 99. He's been honored 9 times by the Associated Press. And a lot of people remember him when he was here on the staff under Wally. And he is a significant player, y'all, in journalism nationally. I mean, he is the lead national college football writer for USA Today. He lives in Oklahoma City. He's driving 5 hours. He'll probably get here before Coach starts just to interview Ed Orgeron today. So whenever I go nationally to all my meetings and the Broyles Award and all that kind of stuff, George is there, so it's really neat to have him there. Maybe we'll get a chance to recognize him before the meeting is over. All right, got a lot of stuff to talk about for the weekend. The first not so good, but Rex will get us through it, hopefully in a positive way. Rex Nelson, everybody.
All right. Thank you, David. Coach O, isn't it great to be out of that Southern California scene? You to go to a club there and everybody's had facelifts and they're eating spinach salads and... now you got a big old fat Southern good old boy with gravy all over his shirt. Look at that. Back among your people. In fact, I'm going to make you feel comfortable, Coach. I'm coming out of this town. That's coming off. My neck's too fat anyway. I'm coming out of it. Of course, Coach O says where he's from, we're Yankees. I checked. Lafourche Parish, Louisiana is a little bit closer to the equator than it is to Arkansas. I did the math this morning. So, but you are among friends here. Of course, when you say L.A. here, that means Lower Arkansas, just so you know. So you are close to L.A., and we are delighted to have you. Once more, a tip, every once in a while, David likes to keep it a big secret. But I give you a tip on next year's speakers list, Charlie Weiss. Just count on it. It'll be available.
It may be Brady Hoke.
And Will Muschamp, as we've already announced. So, we're getting our program already put together here. That's working out pretty well. All right, I'm going to make this like taking a bandage off. We're going to do it real fast so it doesn't hurt so much. Razorbacks SEC losing streak. Now 14 games, but gosh, it was so close to victory. And as Gary said, isn't it good to be relevant again? At least we're relevant again. Arkansas leads 28-14, first play, fourth quarter. Jonathan Williams, I know it hurts, pull it fast, but Jonathan Williams, 55 yards to the 1. 21-point lead about to come up. You have to think there's no catching up for the Aggies. But Dan Skipper called for tripping, game nullified, momentum changes. From that point on, you rarely see a game change this much. The Aggies not only outscore Arkansas 21-0 from that point on, they outgained the Hogs 233-89 from that point on. Brandon Allen was 15-27 passing, 199 yards, but Kenny Hill of Texas A&M, 21-41 passing, 386 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, A&M had just 182 yards passing through 3 quarters, but they had 204 yards passing in the fourth quarter and overtime alone. Arkansas, meanwhile, was 0 for 6 on third down conversions in the fourth quarter and overtime. The game just completely changed. So the last SEC victory is still October 13th, 2012 against Kentucky. It's going to come. Open date this week, and then Alabama the week after that. Let's move on to the other Arkansas schools. Consider the plight of poor old Nicholls State. Coach can tell you how to get to Thibodeau. And in fact, you go to Thibodeau and you say, why is everybody imitating Coach O? They all sound like Coach O. The Colonels have lost coach to an FBS school, an FCS school, Division II school, all from Arkansas in the month of September. They'd earlier lost to the Razorbacks and the Henderson Reddies. This past Saturday, it was UCA 52, Nicholls 18, and Conway. Bears are now 2-3. UCA never punted in that game, never had to punt, even had 2 touchdown drives engineered with their third-team quarterback. UCA led 24-6 at the half, and they never looked back. Razorbacks weren't the only Arkansas team to fall in overtime. UAPB falls to 1-3. 33-30 loss to Jackson State in overtime in Pine Bluff. UAPB held to a 21-yard field goal in overtime, and then Jackson State scores on a 15-yard quarterback scramble. Golden Lions had fought back from a 21-7 first-half deficit, but unable to get it done in overtime. Meanwhile, speaking of Henderson earlier, they win their 27th consecutive regular season game, 44-27 over East Central Oklahoma. Kevin Rogers, 30 of 45 passing, 309 yards and 2 touchdowns. Of course, he's now the all-time leading college passer in Arkansas history. Henderson had 465 yards of offense as the Reddies went to 4-0. Ouachita goes to 3-0, 35-29 at Southeastern Oklahoma. Southeastern had gone ahead in that game 29-28 with just 58 seconds left. But Kyle Frazier, the transfer from Auburn, leads Ouachita down the field in the final minute. Brandon Marks out of Prescott scores on a 14-yard run with 11 seconds left, and Ouachita remains undecided. I never raised my voice, David, in calling that, just so you know. Harding also goes to 3-0, 58-0 over Southern Nazarene. Harding is really good. They held Southern Nazarene to 4 yards rushing, 2 first downs, and 42 yards of offense. They're also in the Division II top 25. Southern Arkansas 2-2, 62-21 over 1-3 Northwestern Oklahoma. Mule Riders have a new quarterback named Cy Blacksher. You may be hearing this name some more. He passed for 377 yards and 6 touchdowns. Southern Arkansas had 675 yards of offense. And after losing its first 3 games by a total of 13 points, UAM got a win, 33-14 over 2-2 Southwestern Oklahoma. That ended a 6-game losing streak for the Boll Weevils. Now, you know you're back south, don't you? We got Boll Weevils and Mule Riders here in Arkansas. We'll have a white weevil riding a mule, if I can speak, pretty soon. And Division III, Jim Rasco, Hendricks, second year to have football back. They go to 3-0 with a 48-21 win over Birmingham Southern and Conway. They got a great quarterback named Seth Peters. He passed for 451 yards. So we end September with 4 undefeated teams in Arkansas: Henderson, Ouachita, Harding, and Hendricks. And I worked for 3 of the 4, I might note, David: Ouachita, Harding, and Hendricks. Now, on to the SEC. How do you figure this? A week after losing to Indiana, Missouri comes into Columbia and shocks South Carolina 21-20. So they're 1-0 in the division now, 4-1 overall. South Carolina falls to 3-2 and 2-2. Missouri trailed by 13 points with less than 8 minutes left in the game. Russell Hansborough scores twice for the Tigers down the stretch. It was the 7th consecutive road victory for Missouri. For those who all said, and I was probably among them, they'll struggle when they get to the SEC. 7 consecutive road victories. Kentucky ends a 17-game SEC losing streak. So it can be done. 17-7 over Vanderbilt. If you're in the East, it's a lot easier, by the way. All of the scoring came in the first half. Kentucky's 3-1 overall, 1-1 in the conference. Vanderbilt really struggling, 1-4 overall, 0-3 in the conference. Ole Miss goes to 4-0, 24-3 over Memphis and Oxford. Get this, this is the first time for Ole Miss to be undefeated through 4 games since 1970. Bo Wallace was 22 of 37 passing, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns. Memphis is 2-2. They've got a decent team this year, but they had just 104 yards of offense against the Rebels. Georgia barely holds off Tennessee in Athens, 35-32. Todd Gurley rushes for a career-high 208 yards, 2 touchdowns. Bulldogs are now 3-1 and 1-1. Tennessee 2-2 and 0-1. LSU moves to 4-1, 63-7 over New Mexico State before 102,000. They've expanded Tiger Stadium again. Backup quarterback Brandon Harris leads drives on each of his 7 series in that game. Auburn goes to 4-4, 45-17 win over Louisiana Tech, although this is not a good Tech team this year. They had lost to Northwestern State out of Natchitoches the week before. Tigers outgained Tech 473-321. All right, the Hogs are open, but it's a really good week in the SEC. We've got Alabama at Ole Miss. Anybody out there like Ole Miss to upset Alabama in Oxford this weekend? There's a few. Remember those folks, David? LSU at Auburn. How many of you are picking LSU to win as the road team at Auburn? Quite a few there, most going with Auburn. Florida at Tennessee. Anybody like Tennessee to beat Florida? Florida's not very good. There we go. We got Vanderbilt at Georgia also, South Carolina at Kentucky, Texas A&M at Mississippi State. After seeing them, how many of you think Texas A&M will go to Stark Vegas and win on Saturday? How many with the Aggies? How many with the Bulldogs at Mississippi State? A majority there. Interesting. All right, here in the state, it's Louisiana Monroe is at Arkansas State, Northwestern Oklahoma is at Henderson, Harding is at Southern Arkansas, Southwestern Oklahoma is at Ouachita, UAM's at Arkansas Tech, and Millsaps is at Hendricks. So you got games in Jonesboro, you got 2 in Arkadelphia, 1 in Magnolia, Russellville, and Conway. 6 choices. Get out and see a college football game on Saturday. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Rex. I'll say real quick, I was proud of the Hogs this weekend. Somebody said, sent me on Twitter or something, well, you believe in moral victories? No, I don't believe in moral victories, but I'd rather have a 2-touchdown lead and lose it in the fourth quarter than get beat 52-0 like we did last year. So I see progress being made, and I'm excited about it. And as Rex said, it's nice to – we're not the only ones proud of the team. There's a lot of national attention saying progress is being made. Of course, we've got to prove it every week. But I'm happy about the direction it looked, and I was proud of the guys Saturday. That was tough. Buddy Tommy Smith over here was saying when you get sick, when you feel bad when you lose, that means it means something. And I think we as a fan base now go, man, that hurts. It means we care. That means we're relevant, and so that's a positive thing. I do want to say real quick before Jim comes up and introduces Ed Orgeron. Ed, and I'm sure Jim will reference this, was at Fayetteville with me. And I'll tell you, I didn't remember. I called Coach O, and Ed goes, well, David, you know, I've met you before. And I said, you did? He said, yeah, I was assistant strength coach after you had left, but I'd come back there and met him a couple times, and it hit me. I remember meeting you. But what a great memory. Or maybe my mustache really made an impression on him back then. I'm not so sure. But there is no question, guys, this is one of the great coaches in America right here. Now, already, you know, with Charlie Watts' firing, Coach O's name has come up with that Kansas job. I don't know if that, you know, they tried to, you know, it shows how smart he is. Nicholls State tried to get him as their interim coach, and he said no. So that was a smart move, Coach. But when you hear where Jim will say where this guy has coached, from one tip of Florida to the West Coast, some of the best coaches, some of the best players in America that you've heard about, ran into Larry Lashwell this weekend. He said, hey, I hear you have Coach O coming to speak. And Larry Lashwell's been around some good players and coaches. He said he is one of the best, if not the best, position coaches as far as hands-on, technique-wise in the country. And then everybody knows about his recruiting talent. And one of the reasons he's so good at recruiting, he's a good guy. He's a compelling guy. He's got a big personality. And you're going to see that today. And one of the things I wanted to mention, when I told Coach, you know, hey, listen, how much do we need to pay you? Because, you know, well, usually I'll have an agent or I'll have somebody say how much, and it could be $3,000, $5,000, or this year, y'all, between $8,000 and $10,000 for some of our speakers. The coach says, no, you're fine. Just take care of my flight and get me up there. I'm not going to charge you a thing. How about that? So I'm excited that we're going to have a lot of time. He's got a lot of funny stories. I think he's going to give you a lot of information. And Jim, will you come up and give him a formal introduction, please?
Well, as usual, you can tell we're not rehearsed. Rex used part of my introduction. David used a larger part of it. That's why I didn't talk last week. I knew we were going to have the mayor was going to read everything about Charlotte Jones. Andrew wanted to give some personal remarks, and I knew David would have to talk about her, so I just sat up here and didn't do a thing last week. All right, here we go. And let me say up front that I'm from a hometown of DeWitt, Arkansas. Some people call it DeWitt, Arkansas, but I can have two pronunciations of my own hometown, and there's a lot of them in this Louisiana stuff I'm getting ready to read on. I'll let Coach O correct my pronunciations when I turn the mic over to him in a few minutes. Edward Orgeron Jr. grew up in La Rose, Louisiana. That's a town in the Bayou Lafourche. That's on the Bayou Lafourche in Lafourche Parish. He attended South Lafourche High School in Galliano, Louisiana. How do, Coach? Okay, good. All right. That's a tough. Okay, and he attended high school. There were two famous high school players that came out of South Lafourche High School. The other one is Bobby Hebert, and that's spelled Hebert, but I do know how to pronounce that. That's Bobby Hebert. Their high school played in what was then Class 4A, which was the highest classification in high school football in Louisiana. Ed started on both offense and defense all 3 years in high school. And when he was in 11th grade, he was named first team all-district as an offensive tackle and also first team all-district as a defensive tackle. And his team went on to win the state championship playoffs in the highest classification in Louisiana. As a senior, he was chosen first team all-state. And I'll let Matt Johnson pull up the first picture. We're trying this for the first time today, and he made him kind of slim at 6'2", 245, but that's what it is. He's wearing big number 77, and he was chosen to play for the East squad in the Louisiana High School All-Star Game the summer of 1979. He was a 4-year starter as a defensive end for Northwestern Louisiana State University. And though he suffered a broken arm late in his senior season, he was chosen the 1983 All-Louisiana Collegiate Football Team, chosen by the Louisiana Sports Writers Association. That included LSU and all the other colleges in Louisiana. He received the first annual Joe Delaney Leadership Award at Northwestern State's annual awards banquet in January of 1984. After graduation from Northwestern, he became a graduate assistant at his alma mater, and then for 1 year at McNeese State. Now I'll call on Matt Johnson again for a photo from the Razorback Media Guide from 1987. Look down there, the bottom right picture. And under the print, sure can't blow it up to read it, so I'll read it. The write-up below Ed's picture states that he came to Arkansas in time for the 1986 season and assisted George Williford in the weight room. He is changing positions this season as he serves as a graduate assistant after 1 season as the assistant strength coach. Orgeron is working on his master's in recreation. And if you look at the print, it's pretty small. It says his master's in recreation, but I figured that had to be recreation. Okay, thank you, Matt. That's all the visuals for the day. After 2 seasons under Coach Ken Hatfield, Coach O joined the staff of another member of the Razorbacks' 1964 National Championship team. His new employer was Coach Jimmy Johnson at the University of Miami. Coach O spent 5 years at Miami as the defensive line coach under Johnson and then Coach Dennis Erickson. Miami won 2 national championships in Coach O's 5 years on the staff. So he worked for Hatfield and Johnson, 2 members of the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame, and while at Miami, he coached a member of the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame, Cortez Kennedy, who was later voted as the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year in 1992. He joined the staff at Southern Cal in 1998, and a couple of years later was retained there by Pete Carroll and took on the added responsibility of recruiting coordinator for the Trojans in 2001. He was promoted to assistant head coach in 2003 and won National Recruiter of the Year honors in 2004. He then spent 3 years as head coach at Ole Miss, followed by 1 year as the defensive line coach with the New Orleans Saints, then to Tennessee for the 2009 season, serving there as defensive line coach, recruiting coordinator, and associate head coach. On January the 12th, 2010, he returned to Southern Cal as an assistant. Then on September the 29th, 2013, early in his 4th season, the fourth season of Coach O's second stint at Southern Cal, head coach Lane Kiffin was fired, and Coach O was named as the interim head coach of the Trojans. He guided the Trojans to 6 wins in their final 8 games, and USC finished the season with a 9-4 record. At the end of the season, Coach O retired from a coaching career that started in 1984. In case you want to know more about Coach O after his talk today, I suggest you read a book written in 2006 by Bruce Feldman entitled Meat Market, Inside the Smash-Mouth World of Football Recruiting. The book is filled with anecdotes about Coach O and is described by the New York Times as one of the most books ever written by about college football. So I know if Johnny from El Paso is here today. Is he here? I knew. I had not spotted Johnny, so I was about to leave this out. But he's here, and I'm sure he will have 2 questions, and at least one of them will be about this book. So please welcome the man you came to hear, Coach O, Ed Orgeron.
Thank you, David. All right. Thank you, guys. Good to be back home. You know, we'll talk a lot today about recruiting, but my number 1 recruiting effort is my wife. She's from the state of Arkansas. She's from Lake City. And I met her on a blind date and married her in 2 weeks. And I said, you're going to find out about me later. Let's go. And we eventually had to make some adjustments. Part of our family is here. Uncle Tyson, Cousin Tyson, Uncle Jerry's here. I'd like him to stand up. Part of our family. Okay, it was the summer of, I have a lot of good stories for y'all to tell, and I couldn't wait. And, you know, I've been out of work for 8 months, and somebody asked me, said, Coach, man, you can't wait to get back to work. What are you missing? I said, man, I can't wait to be the boss of something. Somebody's going to listen to me. You married men understand what I'm talking about. It was the summer of 1986. I was in Grand Isle, Louisiana, shoveling shrimp. And it was about 1 o'clock, and they had a little phone on the little tin shed there, and my nickname is Bebe. They said, Bebe, you got a phone call from Arkansas. Arkansas? Okay. So I went there. There was a buddy of mine named Brad Scott, who sells insurance today in Fayetteville. He goes, hey, we have an assistant strength coach job open at the University of Arkansas. You want it? Hell yeah, buddy. I said, wait a minute. I put the phone to the side, and I took my shrimp shovel, and I threw it in the bayou. And I got up. I said, hey, Brad, where's Arkansas? He says, it's in Fayetteville. It'll take you $11. I'm going to be there tomorrow, buddy. Oh, here we go. But really was a great time. My friends, the Beckett's here. Chris was my roommate. We're not going to talk more about it. And Jay was a graduate assistant, and those guys really helped me out there. They're good friends and great people. But I learned a lot at the University of Arkansas and really, really appreciated my time there under Coach Hatfield. I remember the first time in Wilson Sharp, I was making, get this now, I was making $25 every 2 weeks. Yes. Bringing in the big money, man. I had a place to stay. I was staying at Wilson Sharp, and they had the best food you ever could eat at the cafeteria. It was my first time at a Division I football program. And I went there, and somebody was with me, and I said, what's that? He said, that's sausage and gravy. I said, the gravy's white. Well, I'd never seen white gravy in my life. You know why they call it the bayou, right? It runs right by your house. So, I had some good experiences in the weight room, and believe it or not, that was a little while back then, but not that bad. And I was in charge of the discipline. And I earned the nickname Hip Sled Ed. We had a hip sled, and Chris will remember that. And it was a thing you'd push with your legs, and you couldn't hurt the guys with back squats and stuff like that. And those guys that would misbehave on Thursday night, I'd have them Friday morning. And so they had this one gentleman that frequented my little session on Friday morning. And his name was Stephen Jones. And I can tell the story because we're good friends. And I would be whooping his tail. And the beads of sweat would come out to him, and I was rougher on him than anybody. And they asked me, said, hey, Coach, you know who that is? I said, yeah, he's an outside linebacker named Stephen. He goes, no, that's Jerry Jones' son. I said, who's Jerry? To this day, Stephen and I have a great relationship. I just coached him, man, didn't know any better, So we were playing, playing in Little Rock. This is my first Division I job, and I was at Northwestern State. We played with 3,000 people in the stadium, and I'm so excited to get there. And George Williford, a good friend of mine, was the strength coach, and the team was going down on Friday, and I wanted to go down there, man. I heard about it, and we stayed. Man, no, Ed, we don't have room for you. George goes, well, he said, Ed, I'll tell you how you can get there. There's a bus leaving Saturday morning, and you can go down on that bus. He said, now, Ed, if I were you, I'd come in, get me a good workout, put on your Razorback coaching gear, man, get on that bus, and get all fired up and have a good trip down there. I said, okay, George, I'm going to do it. Man, I get up, I work out, man. I put my Razorback, first time, little hog on there, man, I'm fired up. Big white collar shirt, about touch your ears. I'm going on the bus, right? I walk on the bus. This is what's on the bus. The cheerleaders, the dance squad, and the Razorback Bells. Yes, what a trip. I'm forever grateful for my friend George. Then I moved on to the staff with Coach Hatfield, and what a tremendous experience. With Coach Goldsmith, Wally Ake, all those guys. Think about this now. We had Wayne Martin, Tony Cherico, Steve Atwater, just some great players, and it was a great opportunity for me. And, I learned a lot from every coaching stop that I made and every coaches that I've been with. And Fred Goldsmith, when you guys can remember this, Chris was out there as an offensive lineman and a great one at that team captain. And we would practice the option. And Fred Goldsmith had me playing the offensive tackle, veer release, reach, arc, base. And I learned every blocking scheme of the option. And I learned Coach Hatfield's option. And what that did is that enabled me to become a defensive coordinator, become a defensive coach, and able to stop the option later nowadays, which is prevalent today in college football. So now, I go home, and it's I think we had gone to the Liberty Bowl. We're sitting in there, and I'm going to make a call to come back to Arkansas. And I make that call, and the person tells me I wouldn't come up here. It's snowing and ice. So I'm sitting around. It was the day after New Year's, and Bill Johnson, who was a coach of mine at Northwestern State, who also coached at Arkansas. So I was going to call him and congratulate him on the national championship at the University of Miami. Tommy Tuberville answers the phone. I said, Tommy, is Bill there? He says, no. I said, what happened to Bill? He said, he went to Louisiana Tech. He got a full-time job. I said, Tommy, y'all have a graduate assistant job open? He goes, Ed, we're meeting in 20 minutes on this job. Do you want it? Yes. He calls me back in 30 minutes. He said, Ed, you got the job. Can you be here tomorrow? Now, back then, I used to partake in a couple of beverages. And my car was leaking oil. So I stopped at the shop, and I bought a 6-pack of oil and a case of beer. And down to Miami I went, baby. Here we go. But it really was a great experience. And I heard y'all, Coach Wanstead talk to y'all. I just got a chance to learn from Jimmy Johnson. That's where I learned how to coach on the field and the intensity level and how to coach and how to make the players believe in you. And I respected Coach Johnson. Today, Coach Johnson and Coach Carroll are two guys I learned the most from. And Coach Johnson, he either liked you or he didn't. You know, you don't know if you're on the fence or not. But, he kind of liked me a little bit and got to talk to me a little bit. And he goes, one meeting, you know how he does with his lips. And he had his hair, now that one was out of place. And he goes, Ed, I want to see you in my office. Yes, sir. I'm taking my notebook. He said, I don't want you to bring your notes. Come talk to me. Oh, okay. Coach Johnson wants to talk to me. All right. I go in there. He goes, Ed, I want you to learn something from me today. I said, okay, Coach. Because you want to be a great coach? I said, yes, sir. He says, get great players. I said, you got it. And ever since then, I've been on a mission. Been on a mission and understand it's about the players, not about the coaches. You got to be a good coach, but you can't do it without great players. One of the greatest guys I coached was Cortez Kennedy. What a tremendous young man. Cortez came from us from Northwest Arkansas, and he weighed 350 pounds. And we were playing Florida State. And Florida State was the #1 team in the country, and it was a big time for us. And we were running the 16-110 test. And Cortez came in one day before that, so we were going to test Cortez on the 16-110 test. And, man, he could run. Man, he looked good. This is the new player. And everybody's looking at the new player on the block. Man, about the 6-110, he takes off his shirt, fat all over the place. He's got his T-shirt. He's swinging it. We're going to kick Florida State. You know? Boy, everybody, yeah, Cortez Kennedy, man, we love him, yeah. The next 110, he's passed out on the ground. He can't move. Coach Johnson said, get his fat butt off of here. So this was 1988. Now imagine this, Cortez Kennedy. He played on the PAT field goal team. This is what he did for a year. Yeah. So Coach Johnson gets the job to the Cowboys, and Coach Erickson comes in, and me and Cortez have got to know each other. So just to go and show you how good-hearted Cortez is, he's one of my best friends today. He comes and sits down in my office and say, Coach, what do you think I got to do? I said, you got to get your fat butt down to 285, Cortez. Oh, I don't know if I can do that, Coach. He's about 335. I said, Cortez, if you don't play football, what are you going to do? He said, Coach, I got it all planned. I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to be a state trooper in Arkansas. I said, Cortez, there's not a state trooper corps to fit your big butt. What are you talking about? And we laugh about that today, and he still today, and actually that's what he wanted to do, but he went ahead and lost 50 pounds that summer, and he came back at 285 and completely dominated college football. We won the national championship that year. He was the first player picked to the Seattle Seahawks. I think today he has a private jet. He's done very good with his money. He came to us with one pair of blue jeans, Converse tennis shoes, and two T-shirts. And what a tremendous story, what a tremendous young man. Got a Coach Warren Sapp, can tell you a bunch of stories. Dwayne Johnson, the Rock. And one day he comes off the practice and said, Dwayne, you're terrible. You ought to go be a wrestler. He took good advice, I'm sure. Just got to learn a lot from those guys. And then I went up to Syracuse, and Paul Pasqualoni, and it was a great coach. And we had Donovan McNabb there. We went to 3 bowls, and it was cold as heck. That's about the things I remember of Syracuse. But I will say this to you. And it's funny how life happens to all of us. For the reason we pass through adversity, we go through things, we don't understand why it happens. You just got to keep on plugging, got to keep on digging. I didn't think nobody was going to call me out of that shrimp shed to go to the University of Arkansas. That was the last thing I had in my mind that day. But you got to believe. I always believe that you have to believe, you have to have a belief. So we're playing the University of Miami, my old school, and Devin Hester, who's one of the best kickoff return guys in the world. And we're about to kick off to them right before half, and we're winning. And they, I was just a line coach, and they say, what should you do? I said, don't kick to him. We kicked to him, and he returned it for 100 yards. So instead of the winner of that game was going to go to the Orange Bowl. Now, I'm single back then. 7 days in Miami, Florida? Yeah, let's go. Or the loser goes to the Liberty Bowl. We went to the Liberty Bowl. I wasn't talking to anybody on the staff for 2 weeks. So a friend of mine named David Saunders calls, who was working at Arkansas State. And he said, listen, baby, I've got this young lady I think you really need to meet. I said, okay, good. We're going to be at the Liberty Bowl. We bring her by. So we practiced that day, and he brings her by with her wife, and I meet her. I went, oh, there she is. Huh. So we went there, went on a blind date, and I married in 2 weeks. So thank God we kicked the ball off to Devin Hester. No question. Love Arkansas. All right. So it's May 1st, and we're in Syracuse, and Kelly's pregnant for the twins. And I'm shoveling snow out the driveway. It's May 1st. I'm going recruiting. And she goes, you're mad? I go, hell yeah, I'm mad. I said, we're leaving. She goes, where are we going? I said, we're going south. I don't know where we're going south. We're getting out of here. And I love Syracuse. Nothing bad about it. We got a chance to go to the University of Southern California. Check this out now. We get on the plane. Our twins were born in Syracuse, so we had to wait 30 days to travel. We get on the plane. We'd never been to Los Angeles, California. I'd been there for like 30 days. And we get on the plane, and the twins are in their cribs. Tyler's 5 years old. Kelly's there, and I have formula. I have blankets on me. We look like the Beverly Hillbillies getting on that plane, but we were going to go to Los Angeles and make it. See, I told my dad, remember back then we had the TV 4, 6, and 8, and you sat down and you changed it? I'm 53, but I did it. And I remember I would change it to USC. I wanted to watch OJ run. My daddy said, put on another shoe. No, put on USC. He said, what do you like about that? I said, well, I'm going to coach there one day. I was 6 years old. So I got a chance to go to USC, and what a tremendous, tremendous opportunity. I got there with Paul Hackett. We spent there 3 years. And I want to tell you a recruiting story about persistence. So we were struggling with Coach Hackett, and I was recruiting Sean Cody, the USA Defensive Player of the Year, the #1 player. His dad was a big Irishman, Big Mike, wanted him to go to Notre Dame. So we lost to Notre Dame. They whooped us pretty good. And I have a home visit with Sean Cody Monday morning. And Sunday night, the secretary called and said, listen, we don't want nobody on the road. You'll have a meeting with the athletic director. And I was like, I wonder what we're meeting about. It's recruiting time. So I called the offensive coordinator and said, hey, dummy, we're getting fired. I said, oh, okay. So we go to the meeting. Coach Hack gets fired. Mike Garrett says, here, I don't know what's going to happen, but if y'all want to stay at the University of Southern California, go out on the road recruit. We get out the office, everybody just went, yeah, right, I'm going to look for a job. I said, you know what, I'm going to stay here. So I went out on the road recruiting that day, and when I went to the schools, they laughed at me. They said, Coach, what are you doing? You don't have a job. I said, well, they fired the head coach. I don't know if I'm fired yet. And there was a coach, I won't say, from a major school. He kind of ridiculed me a little bit, and I wanted to choke him, but I didn't. And but I kept them in the back of my mind. There's just something in the back of my mind. I said, you know what? I got you. Make a long story short, I was recruiting for 2 weeks by myself on the road in Los Angeles, going to all the recruits, just keeping it alive. And you'd hear of prospects, the coaches coming in, and I didn't know nothing was going on. So I went to Sean Cody's state championship game. Very close to him. It was very close. It was a state championship. I went in the locker room, talked to him before the game. I was on the sideline. At halftime, I went up there to speak to Big Mike. Big Mike, about 350, sitting up there. Notre Dame's on the right, UCLA's on the left, and Momo and everybody's in the stadium. And I go to shake Big Mike's hand. He don't shake my hand. He says, Coach, get out of here. You don't have a job. You don't have a coach, and my son will never play at the University of Southern California. And the coaches started laughing. I said, hey, Mike, I'm going to coach at USC as long as I want, and I'm going to coach your son. And I left. So I'm sitting on the sideline. It's the third quarter. And now the Cajun's coming out of me. And I'm saying, are you really going to take that? No, he's right. You don't know if you have a job. It's Saturday night. Your family's at home by himself. Go up there and tell him what you really want to tell him. I said, you know what? I better leave. So I'm leaving. And we were living in Orange County, and it was about 50 miles away. And I was coming home, and Anaheim Stadium, I remember the day. And everything happens for a reason in your life, and you never can tell what's going to happen. You never can tell what's the moment. You just got to keep on knocking the door down. There was Anaheim Stadium. There was another state championship being played. My friend Barry Sher called me, Coach O, where you at? I said, man, I'm right around Anaheim Stadium. He said, come here. You have to come check this big defensive lineman out from Long Beach Poly. There was the exit. I turned. I go. Saturday night. Now, it's about 10:30. And he gives me a pass. I go on the sideline, and I'm looking at Long Beach Poly play. And all of a sudden, a guy named Pete Carroll is there. And he comes, tap my shoulder. He says, Coach, I got my USC stuff on. It's about 11 o'clock at night. He says, Coach, what are you doing? I said, Pete Carroll? Yeah. I said, well, I'm checking out these guys. That guy can play. This guy can play. This guy's a junior. He looks at me and says, why are you recruiting? I said, well, I don't know, Coach. They told me that they fired the head coach, but if you want to stay on the road recruiting, go out on the road recruit. He goes, you've been recruiting? I said, for 2 weeks. He goes, you know all the recruits? I said, yeah. I said, what are you doing here? He looks at me. I said, what? He says, Ed, they're naming me the head coach tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I said, oh, really? I said, well, listen, I got these guys here we got to talk about. It's strange things happen, If that guy would have never pissed me off, I'd have never been in that game, But I was at the game. He saw me working. I didn't have to tell him. So here, and we had a great relationship, Coach Carroll and I. So I said, Coach, I think it was Monday. It was a Saturday night, so we skipped to Sunday. I said, Coach, what hotel you staying at? He said, no, I'm going to give you my number. I called and said, Coach, I got the USA Today Defensive Player of the Year. I'm going to be sitting at his school Monday at 7 o'clock when he walks into the parking lot. Nobody knows you're getting the job. I'm going to put you on the phone. You're going to be the first guy that he talks to. We're going to get this guy. Put him on the phone. He talks to Sean. Long story short, he gets on the phone. He called me Eddie. He said, Eddie, I want you at the press conference. I said, okay. So I go to the press conference. And there's all the coaches that had got fired sitting at the press conference. I'm like, hey, guys, long time no see. What's up? So Pete calls us all up, and we're all sitting in the staff room, and he goes, well, fellas, I know you probably all want to hang on, but I'm going to start on you, and I'm not keeping anybody. I went, huh? So I was the last one to walk out. He goes, oh, except you, Eddie. Let's go. Yes. Yeah, what a great story. That was just fantastic. Yeah, so make a long story short, we signed Sean Cody, USA Defensive Player of the Year. He became one of our leading guys on defense, won 2 national championships, and me and Big Mike, who his son wanted to go to Notre Dame, became great friends. So that was a great story. Hey, I went to Ole Miss. It was a great learning experience for me. Got to be in the SEC, learned from my mistakes there. 3 years there, we put 16 players into the NFL and got to implement our recruiting plan. And I want to talk to you a little bit about recruiting plan. And the way to recruit. And a lot of guys may have some questions about that. And I was talking to David. Here's the deal. To me, there's 5 parts of recruiting: identification, evaluation, actual recruitment part, eligibility, and development. That's the way I broke down my areas, and I graded my coaches on that, and we had certain segments with that. And I won't spend a long time on it, but I will say this to you. You know, you got these rivals, 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars. That's all good. I mean, it's all good. You know what? They're not going to tell me who I'm recruiting. Okay? I'm going to go evaluate our guys. I'm going to get them to camp. I'm going to get the height, weight, size, and speed. Patrick Willis was a 2-star, guys. Okay? He's one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Greg Hardy was a 3-star. Dexter McCluster was maybe a 1-star, 2-star. So you got to go out and have trust your own eyes and trust your own ability. The next thing is the recruitment part. You know, I told the coaches, I said, listen, if you don't think you can get the guy, don't go, let me go. You got to have a great, great confidence in yourself and do a lot of homework. And to me, the biggest part of getting a guy is identifying the champion, identifying the decision maker. Just like business, man, you're going to go sell something. You have 4 or 5 guys that are in that decision-making process. You got to recruit every one of them. You got to understand there's one guy in there that got the checkbook, and he's going to say, yeah. And then a lot of times, you know, in the South, it's the mama, and you got to recruit the mama, and I'm good at that. We can do that, and it's been good. Eligibility, get the guys eligible. Don't tell me a guy can't be eligible. I hate a young man to not earn a scholarship because his grades are not right, because his SAT's not right, his ACT's not right. Bull. What's going to happen to them? They're going to work offshore? They're going to go work in the store? There's nothing wrong with that, but let's give them a chance to get an education. And what we did is we went into schools, instead of checking their transcripts as seniors, we checked their transcripts in the 9th grade, in the 10th grade, made them repeat Fs, made them get correspondence courses, tested them for learning disabilities. What a shame. What a shame. How many young men are going through these schools with learning disabilities and they're not getting tested, they're not getting help for it. It's not their fault. They sit in there and something is not computing up there. And then when you do get them tested for learning disabilities, you can identify it and you can give them help. So we did that, and we got a lot of guys eligible that way. And the last, and probably the most important, is development. You got to develop them. You got to coach them. They got to get better when they get on your campus. Now listen to this. You sit in there and you recruit a guy. You stand on the table for him. I want this guy. Okay, you got him. Now coach him. Don't complain about him. Get him better. All right, good. Enough about that. Okay, I went to the Saints for a year. After Ole Miss, it was a chance for us to go home. My parents were at home. We bought a home in Mandeville, Louisiana. We still live there. It was a chance for my kids to go to school. I have 3 beautiful boys. My oldest kid, Tyler, is a senior at LSU. He works in the recruiting department there. He's going to be a coach. He's on track to graduate. I have twin boys. Believe it or not, one's a tennis player. I don't know how he got that. I don't know. I never had a tennis racket in my life. My wife plays tennis, so I guess he learned it from her. And my other boy's a wide receiver. He weighs 195. I think I weighed 195 in the 6th grade. So don't ask me where I got it from. They're good guys. They still live there. And, just going to the Saints, being with Sean Payton. And it was kind of interesting this morning. I left New Orleans. I went from New Orleans, Dallas to Little Rock. Now I'm going to Atlanta tonight, back to New Orleans. I left New Orleans, everybody was mad. I got to Dallas, everybody was happy. I get to Little Rock, everybody, and then Atlanta lost tonight, everybody's going to be mad. And then I'm going back to New Orleans, everybody's going to be mad. I love the South, man, about football. You know what I learned about Sean Payton and the NFL? The exactness, the margin of error is like that. In college, you can take a wrong step and still make the play. In the NFL, you take a wrong step, it's touchdown. The back shoulder routes, all the stuff, the position of the quarterback, everything is so precise in the NFL, and I learned how to practice. All right. Then also I learned that music in the dome, that little Get Crunk song, I played it for my team when I became the head coach, and I'll tell you why. It helped me out. Now, so I go back. I'm living in a hotel. Check this out. I go to Tennessee. I'm living in a hotel. I've gone back to Los Angeles, a place that I love. I'm living in the Radisson. I got me a deal, $50 a night, baby. Bed made, everything, right across campus. No traffic, no nothing. I'm commuting from Los Angeles to New Orleans. My kids are happy. My wife's happy. Man, everything is going good. And then we're not doing well. And all of a sudden, I become the interim head coach. But let me say this to you. After I was fired from Ole Miss, you know, you could blame, you could do all kind of stuff. I said, you know what? That's not going to happen with me. I'm going to learn from my mistakes, not repeat my same mistakes. I'm going to write down what I did wrong. And if I get my chance again, I'm going to be ready. And I'm going to change these things. So after the Arizona State game, let me know how much time we got to do. Okay. After the Arizona State game, I became the interim head coach at a school that I love. So I got the team together. And I grant you, I had an advantage. I recruited most of these young men. And I had a great relationship with their parents. And there was a big trust factor in me. And I'm very gracious for the University of Southern California to give me that chance. I still believe today, regardless of anything, that it's the best place in the world to coach, and it's a great school. And I would recommend for anybody going there, any kid. And you look at the 11 years, I spent 11 years there. It was a great, great university for me and my family. Now, so we get the team together. And you football guys, all of you out here will appreciate this. I had a big rope. You know, you'll hear about, us taking off our shirt. You hear all kind of stories. And we do a couple of abnormal deals, but we don't do them. We're getting a little older. We don't do them no more. But I had a rope there, a big tug of war. I had a rope right there in the meeting room now. My first meeting, I said, okay, offensive line on that side, defensive line on that side. Yeah, coach. Pull. Who won? They raised their hand. One group won. Running back, linebacker. Pull. Fight. Man, they pulling against each other, tugging. Who won? Linebacker. Okay, good. All the winners stay over there. All the guys, DBs, and you can see the story. Then I wanted the administration on this side and the coaches on this side. I was in the front. Pat Hayden was there. I got to say I let him win. And that's all I'll say about that. And, you get the coaching staff and the administration pulling against each other. Who wins? I said, all right, guys. Well, everybody in the room, get up. Everybody, get up. Everybody get on the same side of the rope. Pull. See how easy it is? See, what happened is, in some teams, it's never about the opponent. It's about us. Friendly fire in war kills more people than anybody. Well, we lost the game, but I had 13 receptions. Not my fault, dog. Hey, lost the game, but my unit played well. No. It's about team. It's about one heartbeat. We win together, and we lose together. So that was a good example the first day of getting everybody together. Then the next thing, these are some of the things that I thought about as a coach. When I went to Ole Miss, I went there as a defensive line coach. Let me tell you something, guys. When you're coaching Cortez Kennedy and Russell Maryland and Warren Sapp, and if you walk in there, some little pencil neck guy with a little coat and tie, they're gonna string you up and throw you against the wall. You got to have a little toughness about you, a little say-so. And Warren may hear this. There was one person on campus at the University of Miami that could whip Warren's butt, and that was me. Now, I don't know if I could do it, but at least he thought I could, so that was the most important. And, that method worked, coaching the defensive line. But coaching the team is kind of a little wide receiver, and a kicker might not get that message. So the first thing I thought about is this. Okay, here we go. Number one. And this is 5 years of going to bed saying, how you going to do it? What you going to do to get better? Number one, I'm going to treat the team as my sons. They're going to know it. We can put up all the X and O's. We can go do all the weights we want. We can get all the best equipment we want in the world. But those young men are still young men. And they've got to know that you care about them. Number one, as soon as they figure out that you don't care about them or they can't trust you, you might as well go fishing because it's over. They're in the heat of the battle. Some way, somewhere, they're not going to fight for you. So the number one thing is treat them as my son. Next thing, treat the staff with respect. Let them coach. Let them coach, man. Bring them in. I brought the staff in. I said, look, guys, nobody's going to give us a chance on this deal. We know we can get it done. All I ask you, coach your position just like you saw mine. I won't scream at you on the field. I won't yell at you. If I have a problem, I'm going to bring you in the office. It works smooth. Change the training table menu. Yes. Hey, fed them cookies the first night. There was no cookies on the training table. I fed them cookies. They ate 500. They were happy. I gave them fried chicken. They were eating baked chicken. They were happy. Little things, you know. Feed a guy, work him. It was great. Change the coaching schedule, man. I loosened them up. I told them at 12 o'clock, go jog. Get out of the office. Come back at 1:30. Friday night, let me have the team. Go home with your family. Have family night. Man, the coaches were like, what? I don't want nobody else sleeping in the office. We're working from 8. I gave them a schedule. 10 o'clock, everybody's out. Everybody was fresh. Everybody was happy. I talked about it, one team, one heartbeat. You can talk about it. You got to do it. I had the coaches take their players home for occasional meals. Get to meet their families. Be a part of their families. Let them know they care about them. Let them kids be a part of. Go and play Xbox and stuff. The players loved it. They were happy. They were smiling. Get all the support staff pulling together. You guys that played before, those equipment guys, those trainers, they know everything. Because when the guy gets in the locker room, he's going to talk about anything that's going on. It's like going to the barbershop, you know. And so those guys were on the same page with me. They knew it. They was involved with everything. Made them feel important. Play with energy, have fun, loosen up. Change the practice schedule. You know, we were limited on scholarships. I was not going to use that as an excuse. No way. We put 11 men on the field, and we fight like Trojans. And nothing else was ever said. Now, I didn't kill them in practice, and I learned this from the Saints. Instead of going service team, which is a long explanation, you guys have played there before, we went 1 offense versus 2 defense, and we got a better look. And the other guys were resting on the field, and we got better throughout the season. Friday night, check this out. We was going to a hotel, it was a really nice hotel, and was staying in some long meetings, and our guys were getting wore out. I could tell they was getting wore out. I said, okay, we're going to change that. So on Friday night, we had a nice pep rally. We had steak, lobster, pasta, all the nice stuff you can eat right there in our eating facility. We had all the managers, all the trainers, everybody that was involved in the program ate together. The cooks were happy. And by the way, I sent the cooks a couple of dozen of roses. They were absolutely happy. You guys know how that is. I wanted them happy. And then the coaches went home, and here's what I did, man. I loaded 2 buses up. We had a chapel service, loaded 2 buses up. We went to Hollywood. We opened up MGM Studios, Palm Trees. Those guys from Florida were what? They had their own private movie theater. Own private movie. They got in there. They had popcorn, peanuts. Man, those guys thought they died and went to heaven. They were like, yes, yes. And they played good. They played good. It was a new season, one game at a time. You know, we gave it a great run. It was a great run. Regardless of the ending, it was a great run. It was a great opportunity. It was a great opportunity for me to go in there and say, okay, these are the things that you're going to do different as a head coach. Let's see if you can do them. Now, here comes my favorite part, okay? Now, I'm not coaching for your team, so y'all can't grill me. But I used to say this on Monday, that I don't have all the answers, and you guys have them all. I know that. That's just a joke. I'm doing the same thing. I'm watching TV, and I'm second-guessing just like you, I promise you. But we got a couple of minutes left, and anything that you may ask me, any question that you may ask me, I'll have one rule here. If I don't like the question, I won't answer it.
Real quick, how about before we get to Johnny, how about your thoughts on the Razorbacks? You saw the game against.
Yeah, just like everybody else. What an improved team. I know everybody was disappointed. Should have found a way to win at the end. I love the running game. They got in that one set, that tight end wing set, and your running back was tremendous. Your team was physical. I thought A&M got lucky, to tell you the truth, but that's not an excuse. They should have found a way to win the game. Yeah, good. Well, the favorite one was anyone I give them for free. I can tell you that. The intensity level at the University of Miami was unmatched anywhere I ever went. It was incredible. What Jimmy Johnson, Dave Wanstead, and Butch Davis created down there. When I stepped on that field, it was a war. And our practices, think about this, you going All-American versus All-American, our practices were much harder than the game. That's why they were so good. Iron sharpens iron. And it was a war out there. Let me say something about those University of Miami guys. You see 30-30 and you see all that. They were the most disciplined, well-coached, well-mannered kids I'd ever coached on the football field. They gave you everything they can. We tried to match that at the University of Southern California with Coach Pete Carroll. We got close. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you on the blind side. Great. Recruiting Michael Orr. He was the first player I went to see. And I was announced the head coach at 1 o'clock. I think I was at his home at 4. Yeah. And mother and father, Sean and Leanne, were wonderful. He was. Little boy was just like he was in the movie. I went there, presented my plan, and we just recruited him like we recruit anybody else. And he wanted to come. They liked what we presented. I told him he would start. And I did promise SJ a sideline pass. And one of the best parts about that was being in the movie. And I get to talk about that. I want to say this to you. I spent 6 hours myself with Sandra Bullock. Yeah. And it was a good experience, guys. And no, she was a wonderful lady. And, you know, it's kind of funny. I'd go to Miami recruiting, go to Seattle recruiting, and they say, hey, that's the coach from the blind side. I said, no, I'm from USC, you know. I just gave you a lot, but really. And then Miss Sue, we recruited Miss Sue for the academic council. She was great, the lady that played that. And Sean and Leanne were very supportive throughout the whole year. I'll say this about Michael Orr. He never missed a day of practice. I think 2 days before my last game with him, he had a slight accident on a scooter. That's one of the, accident, and he scraped the skin off of the side of his face where the skin was off. And I think he played left tackle. He put a stocking over, put his headgear on, and played the whole game, and then skipped one. A great young man, but it was a good experience. Anybody? Yeah.
Wow, Sylvester Stallone.
No, but I like you, buddy. Anybody else? All right. Well, I won't discuss that. I'll say this, Steve. I love the University of Southern California. I look at it as a positive. My 11 years of body of work there. Think about it. I was there since 1998. I went there as a young assistant coach. I became a head football coach because of that school twice. We had a great experience there. I learned a lot of great things there. I have nothing but positive things to say. I know this, and like I tried to say today, you can see them in our life, just like everybody else, everything happens for a reason. I don't know what that reason is right now. I know I get to see my kids play. I haven't get to see my kid play at all last year. I'm at every football game, so that's been a positive. I know there's a reason out there why I didn't become the head coach. I'll soon find out, and I believe in that. All right, guys, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Ed Orgeron, everybody. Thanks, Coach O. Great job. Next week, Leroy Jordan. We'll see you next Monday. Thanks for being here.